Thank you, Michael, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to go first as we have to head back to the State House for some important business. Not that this is not important, and that's why I am here today and found time to make sure I stop by this conference to have an opportunity to speak to all of you about my proposed legislation. Before I do that, let me just give you a quick background. In addition to being an elected official as a state senator and a mayor of a small town, I do have a background in athletics, and I played 3 sports in high school, played baseball in college, was Division III All-American baseball player in college, and I coach now. I actively coach my little guys in youth sports. So, and I am a big fan of high school sports. I will say that, and have the opportunity. When I do have the opportunity, I should say, is to attend competitive high school games, whether it's basketball, football, baseball, wrestling matches, whatever, in my legislative district or around Bergen County. So I have a little bit of a background in this area, but what I do know is that our high school, at the varsity level, our secondary schools have become very competitive. And we've opened the newspapers and we've all read about different athletes and injuries that have occurred, and in returning to the game, returning perhaps to games too soon, or returning to practice too soon, and then they're left with long-term devastating effects. That shouldn't happen. We have some very competitive high school athletes out there. Some of them go on to great college careers, perhaps some go on to professional careers. But we need to do probably a better job of making sure that there is a professional certified athletic trainer on every sideline. We are very fortunate today. We have 86% of the schools in New Jersey that have professional athletic trainers on the sideline. That takes the burden off parents. It takes the burden off the coaches. The coach is there to get his team ready to play on the weekend and to play game day and to win the game. Sometimes coaches have a tendency, because there's a lot going on. You have a very competitive young man or woman who wants to go back into the game. An athletic trainer will provide that professional opinion of whether or not that individual should enter into the game, or perhaps immediate medical attention is required. And that is another important issue, whether or not a doctor or an ambulance should be called and to get them to a hospital immediate. And so there's 2 components, not only whether or not they should re-enter the game, or whether or not immediate medical attention is required. Now, people will say, why are we going to legislate when 86% of the schools are already employing athletic trainers, whether it's under contract or as an employee, and only 14% do not have athletic trainers. One of the concerns I have, and as the chairman of the Senate Budget and Appropriations Committee, this is a very difficult time. We are in very difficult economic times. And not to sound partisan, but we do have a governor who's going to send a strong message to our public high schools that they're going to have to do more with less dollars. And there's going to be significant budget cuts. My concern is I don't want Board of Educations around the state of New Jersey saying, hey, we need to cut, and an area where we can cut is our athletic trainer's budget. Take the athletic trainer off the sideline. We don't need it. We're only an ambulance call away. Unacceptable. The men and women in this room and the men and women at this conference are highly trained, highly qualified individuals who have done an outstanding job, and we need to make sure that you continue to stay on the sidelines, whether it's a high school boys or high school girls athletic event. And we're talking about competitive varsity events. We also recognize that some of our parochial schools, and of the 86%, I think the statistics say that 90% of them actually are public schools. We all know some of our larger parochial schools who are so competitive, are actually a little pet peeve of mine of recruiting, bringing in players from New York State and Pennsylvania, some as far as 2 hours away. It's a little bit of a pet peeve of mine, but that's for a different forum. But we do know that some of these high school events are almost, the competition level is almost like a college level event. So we do need athletic trainers on the sideline. This bill will require it. And I think one other important thing to take with you, what we're doing here is we're amending the statute. The current statutes that requires secondary schools to have a school nurse in the school, we're amending that. Because at 3 o'clock, that school nurse goes home. And now we're saying that extracurricular activities will continue in a very, very competitive and physical way. And we're going to amend the statutes that says, oh, the school nurse doesn't have to stay, but you better have an athletic trainer on the sideline to work with our student athletes. I don't want budget cuts to get in the way of the safety and the training of our school athletes. And that's why I'm here today, and that's why we're sponsoring this legislation. I know we like to get caught up on a discussion and debate about concussions. Of course, concussions are a part of this, but this bill is not there just about concussions. It's about, sudden death that do occur. It's about spinal injuries. It's about knee injuries. It's a whole host of injuries that do occur when you're out there on the playing field. So